All right, y'all. So, welcome to another episode of Mornings with Movers. We are live. It is Thursday. It is mid-May. Jeez, I almost forgot the date. Mid-May. And we are what? It was 120 days to start. So we are at about what is it, 90? Am I no, I'm going too little fast. Probably about 105. 105 days left. So make sure you guys are out there doing what you need to do because obviously these days are flying by. So if your calendars isn't full, you're doing something not right now. But we're gonna get into that. So again, everybody, I'm Dwyght with Max Movement Training as well as Moving Force, your on-demand moving team. And we got Ryan Marsh in the building from Supermove, holding it down like always. And we got a guest today, Ethan from Shift Enterprise Academy. I don't know if that's his profile picture or he's frozen, but either way, it looks good. So what up, guys? What's going on?
What's going on, Dwight? Happy Thursday here.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I know you're
Well,
not traveling now. You say your
good,
schedule all messed
man.
up.
It's
Tell
the
us
day
about it,
after
man.
hump day.
Say that again. I
No,
think
I
he's
said it's the
frozen.
day after hump day.
Oh yeah, yep.
Hump day?
So I think is that your profile picture or your screen frozen?
It may be frozen. Let me leave and come back in case we got an issue here. Let me leave and come back.
All right. I was like, dude, that's a nice profile picture. I never thought of doing
He's stuck
that.
though. He's stuck like this.
But no, so yeah, no, everything has been on the up and up. Obviously business is moving the way business need to move. You guys definitely, I don't know how, I haven't heard really too much about, I've been, like I said, stuck in these labor groups. So I haven't really heard too much about the industry and how everybody's kind of doing. Um, Everybody seems to be doing okay. Nobody seems to be over boasting about being overly busy.
Yeah,
Have you
man.
heard anything?
For the most part, I would say, and I'm just gonna say like 80% are actually having a pretty damn good start to peak season.
Okay.
The folks I'm chatting with, schedules are filling up. They're now booking 2+ weeks out, 3+ weeks out. Um, so it's the hay is here. They're
So
making their hay.
as we talked about with that probably a while ago or so like that, and even Tim Corrupt brought it up in one of his short videos the other day. Whoa, why are we blocking off our schedules? Because if you're saying you're 2 weeks, 3 weeks out, that means you're blocking off your schedule. This is the time where you got to get after all the money you can get after. Whether you got to spread your resources across the board, whether you got to rent additional trucks. There's just no reason why the schedule should be necessarily blocked if you can manage. Maybe some people can't manage more than 4 teams, 5 teams, 6 teams.
Need a last-minute fill-in or facing an unexpected injury among your moving staff? No worries, Moving Force has you covered. Our app instantly connects you with trusted, professional movers who are ready to step in and handle urgent jobs whenever you need them. With our reliable network of vetted experts, you'll never be left short-handed. What are you waiting for? Download the app now and sign up for free now. Your stress-free move is just a tap away.
Well, I guess that would be my question back to that is if I only have X amount of guys and X amount of trucks, right? I'm at basically rolling at 100% capacity, which just can be a little bit scary because one truck breakdown, a couple crew members call off, somebody gets hurt, sick, what have you. What happens? So when I say booking 2 to 3 weeks out, like company schedules are full. So are you saying like if my schedule's full, I should go out and grab a team of folks and rent a truck to take more jobs that day, that week, that month, or
No,
would you?
spread your A team out. The A team. So granted, now the A team becomes maybe more of a mid B team, but you're basically spreading your A team out to basically be able to lead other jobs in this time and have maybe our moving force mobile movers help you out, or just have extra guys come in and help out to fill the spots. It's almost like sending a driver long distance and saying, "Hey, we're going to hire labor when we get to the other side." Well, clearly you're not worried about your other team members. So spread them out a little bit. Take on an extra 2 jobs in your schedule versus what you're used to taking on. Oh, well, we can only take on 9 jobs in a day. Push it a little bit. Push it to 11 jobs. See if you can maintain that for the summer. We're not asking you to do it longer than 120 days, but this is the time where you're going to be able to maximize your dollars. And again, I could be wrong, but I would say, obviously, this is the 6 months out of the year that we all get. And to, kind of cap yourself off when you got customers calling like, hey, I need to move in a couple of days. We really can't take you for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You're turning away money.
I'm with it. I like, how you kind of diversify your guys a little bit. You're kind of separating the A team, B plus team, what have you. But why not do that all year round? Why do we all wait for the 120 days of summer to make that hay? You got the rest of the year. You got 9 more months.
Margins are a little tight during the rest of the year, though.
Are the margins tight? Is that because they're dropping rates? Because it's non-busy season?
That could be the case too.
I think that the diversification, man, is to me is critical and key to not having those crazy peaks and non-peaks.
Yeah, so
If you
Ethan, I
can
know
spread
that
that love out throughout the rest of the year, you don't have to worry about running at 120% capacity, splitting your main crews up, renting trucks, taking on more than you can physically handle with the potential of additional claims, teammates not trained correctly, call outs, what have you. I'd rather spread the love out throughout and again, just me. I'm crazy with that stuff, but I'd rather spread the love out around the clock rather than those 120 days. We're just gonna give it all we've got.
Yeah, no, and I get that. The only issue with that is that yes, if you kept your rates the same, peak and non-peak season, would you lose some business because customers want to go in a different direction? Because they're like, oh, you're too high. There's a lot of supply out right now. So
I think that's where the diversification comes in because during the 120 days of summer, aka peak, we all know it's predominantly household. But what happens after peak season? That's your FF&E, OS&E, that's your hotel installs. Completely different rates, completely different margins. You're talking 60+%. So a little bit different lens, I would say.
So Ethan, sorry about that. I know we off on a tangent right here, but we'll get back to that.
Hey, man, I'm taking notes, man. Y'all got it going on.
So yeah, you're still a little frozen. But yeah, tell us about your side when it comes to business development as a whole.
Yeah, man. So I turned my camera off. Maybe I'm in a bad area and that's what's causing the freezing. But for me, I started my career primarily in real estate. So I used to, work with a lot of first-time home buyers, people that may have been in the renting years and we wanted to be. And so for someone is now, like you said, we can talk about business development. How you go that service provider? You say out for those 120 days to instead to being an asset owner. We're owning the routes, or we're owning the warehouse, and eventually, the land and the business instead of just being a service provider. So that's the angle that I'll, kind of speak to today, using some of the same basic fundamentals of business that are in real estate. How do we, again, transition from service provider to asset owner?
Okay. So, yeah, I guess we can definitely get into that whole leadership thing as well because we are in the summertime. So, where are you guys? Where are you owners? Are you owners on the truck right now because you have to get it, which then makes you at 100% capacity that we were just mentioning or whatever the case is? Or are you the one still in the office holding it down with making sure that the guys are doing what they need to do, the salespeople are doing what they need to do, operations, marketing, everybody's doing what they need to do so that business keeps flowing and you keep overflowing your schedule? Like, yeah, I just got questions on questions. So if you guys are in the chat, if you guys want to kind of let us know where you are position-wise this summer, definitely tune in, let us know, and we can go from there.
Last minute crisis? We've got you covered. When your moving staff is short, Moving Force steps in. Instantly connect with a network of trusted movers ready to handle the job. Fast sign-ups, trusted network, reliable solutions. Don't let last-minute issues slow you down. Help is just a tap away. Download the app and sign up for free today.
As far as going back to what Ryan was
You know,
saying,
Dwight, I would add, not to cut
but
you off, I would add, I was going to say, I would add, and I'm not sure exactly where the bulk of your audience is. We kind of connected and then began this conversation around business development in this logistics field. But I think one of the things when you think about mindset, which is a lot of what I do in business development, is, you talk about really having a hustle for those 120 days. Is a lot of times folks are, so that's a lot of muscle. But now, whenever you're in a down season, for example, as the year goes on, what are your methods? What methods would require you to be able to, like you say, to be able to scale, to be able to not have to hustle so much? I mean, that's the mindset I always take to business development. How do you, not just be the engine that makes this thing go, but how do you own the fleet?
no, that definitely makes sense. So I guess what recommendations would you have, when it comes to, you know, taking a person out of the day to day and really owning their business versus working their business?
Hmm. One thing I would say, Ryan, you jump in there when you want, man, but I would say one thing I would think about is, what, not just necessarily thinking about having more jobs. I want to get more jobs, more jobs, more jobs. What types of jobs? Can you have a niche, right? Can you own a certain niche, or is there a certain region where you're like, okay, I know this region is good for this type of niche. And now, again, maybe that's not what you're doing peak season. Peak season, you get what you got to get. But now, whenever things are kind of slowing down, okay, now I'm going to say, okay, can I add storage? Okay, maybe can I add junk removal? Or maybe I could be the final mile delivery person. Just different aspects of the niche of the market. I guess you're going from, just paying the bills to actually becoming a master.
Hmm. Yeah, no. And diversifying is definitely key. One of those things that you want to be, you rather be over prepared than under prepared going into the season. And I was a big fan of, hey, let me make sure I got enough guys. Let me make sure what's our projection for the summer? Like, you should be doing a performer report regardless of the time of the year. And the performer report should include the summer. Okay, hey, how many jobs do we expect to have? Now, if we have more than those jobs, great. But if we have under those jobs, oh, I'm mad as hell. But the goal is when you do that performer report and you say, hey, we expect to have and I'm just thinking from New York's perspective. I know people got 150 jobs in the summer, but I'm going to talk about, hey, you know what? We got 60 jobs, 70 jobs, maybe even 80 jobs in June or whatever the case is. So that amounts to be about what? About 4 jobs, 3 to 4 jobs a day. And again, that's low for some people because obviously think about it. If you got 6 to 9 trucks, that's about eight, what is it? About potentially 18 jobs in a day if you're doing doubles or triples or whatever the case is. But again, you don't want to burn your guys out in the hot summer months because at the end of the day, you need them again tomorrow and the day after. Oh, snap, are you open 7 days a week? I know that some people kept to their guns and they kept closed on Sundays. So, hey, we're going to maximize our summer months with 6 days versus 7 days. And some people would like, oh, whoa, what are you doing? Open that seventh day. This is the only time you could take in work. But then you realize that you never give your A team guys a day off, or your B team, or your C team, or people just start calling out more often because you don't get them a day off to do what they need to do. What was your take on that schedule, Ryan? I know you say your guys work closed on a certain day.
I mean, to each their own. We were closed basically on weekends. Right now, we did do account work on Saturdays, but we also kind of gave our guys the autonomy to say, hey, through the software that we're leveraging, the crews could go in and pick the days that they wanted to work or days that they could not work. So if we saw that, hey, following weekend we had 1 crew, 2 crews, 3 crews that wanted to work over the weekend, then we'd potentially book jobs. If we didn't have anybody that was signed up to work on that weekend, we probably wouldn't. But I'd also want to back this up just a little bit because you always hear, oh, yeah, I got 7 trucks running, I got 9 trucks running, I got 4 trucks running. Have we ever attempted to tie revenue based on that month and those weeks? And basically what I'm saying is, if my revenue goal was $400,000 in May, right? It's $100,000 a week. Whether that $100,000 a week took you 12 jobs, 15 jobs, or if one job that week was $100,000. What's your thoughts on that? We were more we were goal oriented when it came to the revenue side of things. So, and it ramped up obviously in the summer and then it ramped down a little bit in the winter, but we had the 3-year trends. We had all the data, the 5-year, the 7-year. So we knew where we were and we set those benchmarks as where we wanted to be revenue wise, but also profitability wise. So back to $400,000 in May, if I booked a $110,000 project, which took 2 trucks and I still had additionals, but it took all my crews, I wasn't worried about not running those other 3 trucks. I blew my $100,000 revenue goal for that week out of the water. We were still winning. We were still doing really well. So again, we did things a little bit different. And a lot of people look at that like, what the hell did you guys do? But we weren't burning guys out. We weren't, our trucks were in the repair shops at all times. We had basically specific revenue goals that we need to hit each week, each month, and each quarter. Now, whether it took us all hands on deck to do that, or if it was just a couple trucks to do that, didn't matter to us.
Now, and you could jump in anytime, Ethan, but I was thinking with regards to that, how do you say it? So you have revenue goals. Now, granted, you one job. So let's say first week, your goal is $400,000 for the month. The first week, Monday, Tuesday, whatever the case is, you have a project, you book a project, $100,000. That means that you are already at a quarter of your monthly goal with just one booking. Are you setting the goals too low in that case? Or are you setting it at a proper level then? Because you are already almost exceeding that goal and you're on track to exceed that goal by a lot. Because that was just one project.
Yeah, no, and again, could be the anomaly project as well, too, right? You could book a $300,000 library project and be like, oh my gosh, but those typically don't happen, in the heat of the summer in the household goods season. But no, I mean, we didn't just pick out, oh, we're going to do 400,000 in May. We looked at, 7 years worth of data and said, okay, geez, we were doing 350. The following year we did 375. The other year we did 370. We had the numbers to make the decision based on what our capacity was and what the previous year's revenues were as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and like anything, you can always adjust those goals too. But let's face it, we also always don't know what's going to come over that phone, what's going to come through email, and what our crews might pick up, out on particular jobs. So, yeah, no, I get your point about kind of undercutting the goals, but you got to use the data to figure that out because you don't want to set goals. Oh, we're doing $1 million in May. We've never came close to $1 million in May. We've always been 350. So why the hell would we have $1 million goal?
Right.
But if you're always done 350 in May, I'm not going to set the goal at 3.25. But if we've always done 350, if we're looking to grow, we've got different revenue streams now that we can leverage. We know we're trying to grow this stream by 5%, this stream by 10 because it's hot in our area. Pretty simple to figure out where you should be.
Hey everybody, my name is Dwyght Mack with Max Moving Training. So we're going to be doing a move and a pack today. But before we go in, there's just 10 basic rules that we just need to know before participating with this service. So number 1, understand moving is a very, very stressful thing. The customer, they're uplifting their life from one location to another. They're having to call all these vendors and get all these suppliers in place so that basically they can make that transition. So their stress level is at the highest right now. We need to be a service provider that comes in and basically keep that stress level mitigated or very low. Come in as professionals and do our job the way we know how to do our job so that this customer is less stress during that move process. Number 2, be on time. First impression is everything. You guys showing up outside of the window rubs the customer the wrong way. It messes up the rest of the move process. Even if you guys do the best job y'all can do because one thing was off, this customer's mood is just off. Go up and beyond, be there before the time, as long as they're okay with it.
Yeah. So Ethan, now you said are you involved with real estate or real estate agent? What are you, I guess, with regards to that relations?
Yeah, no, I was an agent for broker for 10 years. I do mostly development work now. I'm actually traveling. That's probably why my service wasn't the best. I'm in East Africa for a bit.
Ooh.
But in listening to the conversation, I'm curious about your listeners and the audience. You know, are we, because it sounds like we could be looking at a high level, right? Because initially I was coming in with some business development ideas and maybe entry or mid level. But when you start talking about, you know, $500,000 a month, maybe the conversation shift a little bit more. Still ownership, but you know, when you get to that point, and Ryan, you spoke on this when you talked about folks being off on weekends and these revenue goals. But are we buying back our time as we grow, or are we buying more work? What would be the angle there? Are we trying to buy back our time so we can really just be, I'm owning this, or are we looking to buy more work? What's the vibes and who's the audience? I just want to make sure we're speaking to the right people, that I'm speaking to the right people.
Mm.
I think
No,
there's a
go ahead.
I'll try to. I think there's a healthy mix there, Ethan. There's people that are looking right now to buy time. There's particular owners that have fired themselves off the trucks. They're looking to kind of grow the machine. But there's also others that are listening, that are part of the audience that, they're not looking to buy more time. They're looking to get more jobs. They're looking at, you know, 2xing, 3xing, 4xing revenue. They're newer in the game. They've got the wild, crazy energy. They are in the game like you wouldn't believe. So I think there's a broad, broad spectrum, I would say, of audience.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
and definitely buying back the time definitely makes sense. But it's to that point now where so many moving business owners that are in their the older generation that are in their late, 50s, 60s, or whatever the case is, still running a business. They're not on the truck anymore, some of them at least. And they're just like, I can't afford to retire. I don't have like a
Mm.
401k. I don't have these benefits to just say, well, hey, yeah, maybe I could collect my Social Security soon, but I don't have the money to retire and just say, hey, let me close this business down and, go live my best life or whatever the case is. And that's
Mm.
very sad and to hear in general that, this is where it goes when you become a business owner that you don't build the contingency plans to just say, hey, you know what? Let me pass this business down to my kid or whoever and just go right away into the sun because
Yeah, no.
it,
And that person, you know, you start thinking again about systems, right? You know, if you could get a bucket of water, you got two bodies of water, one here, one there. You get a bucket of water, you can go dip the bucket, move it over here, pour it out. Dip the bucket, move it over here, pour it out. But then what if you just build a pipe, right? From one water line to the next and you just let it flow. So I think for those people that, you know, if we want to speak to those that are maybe wondering, well, what's next? I've hit a wall or I'm just getting started. I think systems are so important. And I think, again, going back to Ryan and talk about being able to do, you know, 400,000, 500,000 a month, there's got to be some systems in place. And I don't know all the topics that you guys have dove into, but I think if I were going to be here to add value, I'd start thinking, you know, what's the difference between having a client that needs me to show up at 7 p.m. and make this move across country and having contracts with entities that allow me to be able to kind of streamline operations. I think that's the mindset that I'd want to push people to that are kind of wondering, you know, where do I go from here?
Number 3, make sure your team is in uniform, they're groomed, their hygiene is checked, because that's the worst thing you could do, especially going in a house. Customer can smell your guy from a mile away, and now, again, their mood is just thrown off. So make sure that you guys are in uniform, you're tight, you have uniform shirts, it doesn't look like, you have a laborer that's, hired from off the street. Presentation is everything that goes towards your first impression. Number 4, introduce both you and your partner when greeting the customer. Don't just go to the door by yourself, while your driver is unloading the truck and introduce yourself. Actually have both of you there. Introduce yourself first, then introduce your partner second, and then, allow them to welcome you into their home.
Okay, okay. Yeah, no. And that's that time where the off season, where I like to think, is your planning time. Or are you looking at your business plan again, if you have a business plan? Most people just jump into this without a plan. They're just like, hey, I heard this industry, I can make a lot of money. And you can without a plan. That's the crazy part. But, what is the end goal? I've seen people that's running their business after 11 years, 20 years, etc. And it's just like, what is the end goal? Like, and some people are like, oh, well, I want to just sell the business off and make money or whatever the case is. Well, you can, but this isn't a high multiplier type of business.
In some cases, yes. Most cases, absolutely not. The businesses are worth their phone number, the name, and that's about. I've seen it too many times, especially over the past 6 months. Companies have been around for 50 plus years, 50 plus years, going out of business, selling their company for $40,000 to $50,000, which basically you're getting a website, phone number, and the ability to use the name. That's it, because their trucks are garbage, falling apart. They were leasing a building for 50 plus years. They didn't even own the bit. It's kind of sad. It's super, super sad. And I also, you know, take a step back. When you look at this peak and non-peak, imagine if, and I think we might have talked about this, Dwight, but imagine if, because I feel like all movers, we consider ourselves a seasonal business. But are we? We've got trucks, we've got people, we've got warehouse space. We can do a lot of things with that. Imagine if Walmart and Sam's Club and some of these big badass retailers, what if they were just a seasonal business? And I think I've said this before on the show. What if Walmart was only open on Christmas and
Mhm.
Thanksgiving and freaking Halloween to sell candy corn? The rest of the year they were planning. Is that a bit? What is that? So why do we take that same mentality in this industry of, we have the 120 days to make the hay?
I think and I don't want to make the excuse, but it depends on where you are. Like obviously when we have to deal with the winter months in Northeast, obviously we're not expecting a lot of customers to move in this time of year. Even if we try to
Not
get.
household, but what happens in the wintertime? Hotels are being refurbished.
Hmm.
Commercial work. You've got all sorts. You've got
Yes.
final mile. You've got milk runs. If you've got a distribution center anywhere within a 30 to 40 mile radius of you, you have work to do. Trucks are always going to miss, especially if you're in the Northeast. Trucks are going to miss their dock time. What happens when trucks miss their dock time at distribution centers? They get turned away. What do those drivers do? Because they have other loads they've got to go pick up. They can't afford to wait 24 hours to be reassigned a new dock time. They need a warehouse to drop that product. Who was that warehouse? That was me. I was there. 40,000 pounds of Campbell soup, a tractor trailer load full of diapers. Like,
Hmm.
there's work out there. There is always work out there. It's just a matter of
I like to
maybe it's
say
that.
that. No,
Go
go
No,
ahead,
ahead.
so
Ryan,
to
my bad.
Ethan's point, no, to Ethan's point, that mindset piece. Are you just a household good mover, or do you have beautiful trucks, incredible people, a ton of space, and the ability to think outside the box of what can you actually move and master?
Mm.
Yeah, I
Yo,
like to say,
go
like,
ahead.
the wolf climbing the hill has to be hungrier than the wolf that's on top of the hill. If the people out there that are climbing, you got to be hungry like that. If I'm doing 6 figures a month, maybe, but if you're climbing the hill, you got to be hungrier than Ryan. You got to be hungrier than the Dwight. I posed this question. I'm not sure where you were going with your next comment, Dwight, but just a question for you guys and just thinking again about, what does the ceiling look like? But if you had an opportunity or you were going to franchise your operations tomorrow, what would you say is missing? If you were going to franchise and really blow this out of the water, if that was your end goal, what's needed or what would you say is missing right now from your operations?
So, that is a good question. I would say that, so for me, I'm an over preparer. So having SOPs in place, I think that's sometimes a crippler on my end because it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to make sure we cover every little asset or aspect versus, going into it and then just figuring it out as you go. And I think I'm trying to find that happy medium where it's just like, you know what, figure it out as you go. If you come up and you run into a wall, all right, how do we get around that wall? Versus preparing for a wall that may never exist.
Mhm.
And I've seen that too many times over, where it's like I've been in business with people that were around the same year that I was at, and they were making probably double the amount of revenue that I was making. And I'm like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? How are you having so much success? And I'm like, where do you have SOPs? Do you have these systems in place? You know what? I actually need to be working on that stuff, but we could be definitely better at that. And I'm like, what the hell? You know, and it's a crippler because you're just like, you're trying to be too over prepared. It's just like a person in school going against a person that's street smart in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to school for automotive and I learned all of the book work for automotive, I'm like, all right, when I get into this shop, I know step 1 through 10, I'm going to knock this out, blah, blah. But then they said, but also being in school, they said, well, hey, step 1 through 10 is going to take you 2 hours. Soon as you get that work order, the boss is like, hey, we need this done in 30 minutes. Like, what the heck? But this takes 2 hours. There's no way I'm getting this done in 30 minutes. And then you got those other guys that's in the shop that like, no, this could be done in 30 minutes. You just have to do this. No, that's cutting corners though. If I cut corners, I'm not gonna, something's gonna get dropped. So we have this stigma or initial mindset that everything has to be by the book. And it should, don't get me wrong, you don't want to cut corners in certain areas and, do a disservice to your customer. But at the same token, people are finding ways to be more effective by not doing all 1 through 10 steps or being able to combine the steps into 5 steps in some way, shape, or form.
Very
What's your take,
interesting.
Ryan?
I mean, as Ethan said, man, having systems and process, me personally, if I had a moving company again, I wouldn't look to franchise out until my business was super profitable. And we're probably talking, 30-ish plus percent, I would say. And our trucks are running around the clock. If I can't get my own current one location set up, running, this, that, what have you, around the clock for the most part busy, me personally, I'm not going to start franchising until
Mm.
I have my systems and processes down to a T. Um, but once
Yeah.
you get those down, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter what business or industry you're in. It's just a rinse and repeat model, as I'm sure Ethan probably sees quite a bit. You have the right systems, the right processes. You know how to execute. You're okay with change. You can basically rinse and repeat in just about any industry you want to roll into. It can be moving, could be a damn sub shop. You could be in food service. To me, it doesn't matter. If you've got the processes down and the really badass systems and SOPs, like you're talking, Dwight, it should be pretty simple to rinse and repeat.
Yeah, no, and I think what got me stuck at one point was and Jay Burnham kind of said it as well, from Seven Figure Moving Academy, where he was saying that like his market only, you're kind of capped at a certain point, and I don't know if that's a mindset thing, and I try to fight it as well to be like, oh no, you're not capped, it's mindset. You just got to go out and diversify or do this or do this. But then, you hear people like, let's say Louis Mazzaro, who talks about, oh, once you find something, dig that hole deep versus digging so many shallow holes. So that meaning that in this case, hey, why, if you're in residential moving and there's a deep, rabbit hole to how much money you can make in residential moving, whether you're doing long distance, local, whatever the case is, then, dig that hole deep and make that much money versus like, oh, well, hey, I'm doing cleaning, I'm doing painting, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And now you got so many shallow holes just to make up the same amount of revenue you would have had if you just focused on one thing. And then goes back to, like I said, Jay Burnham, where he was saying that you're almost capped off with how much you can make, and depending on the market. And that's kind of how I kind of felt when I had my company, where it was like, geez, are we capped off at 3 trucks, 4 trucks? Like we get 4 trucks out consistently, but when can we get to the fifth truck? When can we get to the sixth truck? Because the work hasn't been consistent, and I know I'm marketing my behind off to make sure that we have enough leads coming in, but physically, I'm just seeing that we're only able to consistently maintain 3 to 4 trucks going out regularly. So is it something from the business owner side of things? Or Is it something that we need to diversify because of the market that we're in? Like, so I guess it leaves you with so many questions on how to grow in that particular market with, is it capped just because it's capped, or is it capped because as an owner you're limited to what's the next step?
Mm.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah,
from
that's
my
interesting. No, jump in there, Ryan. I was just there. That's very interesting. I'll jump in after you.
really just speaking on, going deep or shallow. I remember vividly there was a point 10 years ago. I was trying to grow our account business. I had a list of 30 accounts, and in my mind, I was going to get them all, right? Now, I got most of them, but I was only doing a couple $1,000 here and there with each account. I didn't know them that well. I wasn't that deep. The relationship wasn't there, and I was running a little bit ragged. How do you stay on top of multiple accounts and also drive them deep? So I ended up basically peeling back and saying, okay, we have the one account that's spending X amount of that. It's the number one account that we have spending X, which was minimal at the time. I dove and sunk my claws into that particular account. And it started off with just doing some residential moves. Then once we got the relationship going, it started to grow. Then it was, hey, now we're doing the executive and C-suite moves. And then it turned in, hey, we're doing all their commercial moves. Now, hey, guess what? We're doing the record retention. So I found it was a heck of a lot easier and it was more fruitful to pick a couple accounts and dive as deep as you can go. Rather, basically, the shotgun versus rifle approach. Do you want to just sit there and spray a bunch of BBs all over the place and hopefully something sticks? Or do you want to be very methodical, aim small, miss small, and dive deep into that particular account? And that account turned into was over $1 million account, with 150 plus moves per year, excluding all the storage, the record retention, all the other stuff that we did. So an account that once was $27,000 a year over the course of 2 years was now $1 million account. Now that we know how to attack accounts, we've done it. We knew who the right people are. We know which seats on the bus that we need to occupy. We have the systems and processes down now to handle and tackle other accounts. AKA, we can rinse and repeat this. Now we went on to account 2, account 3, account 4, and basically dove as deep as we could. And that's how we did it. And we were super successful with that. It's just, do you want to have a lot of accounts and get a little bit of them? Or do you want to have a few accounts, a handful, and own it all? But that's a choice that, based on your market and what you have available, it's a choice you need to make.
Mm. And what were you gonna say, Ethan?
Nah, just to piggyback off of what Ryan just said, and even when you were saying why you hit a wall, and me in real estate, I always go back to think about what's the land opportunity. If you get to a certain point where you've done very well, when does it make sense to buy strategic parcels of land, right? Maybe in areas that are developing, growing cities, or near. I mean, maybe it's tough to buy some land near a port because that could be expensive. But I'm just curious about again, looking at ownership. When do you pivot into again like a land grab or partnering even with the people that develop these storage facilities? What does that look like? Is that something that folks in this industry are looking at, or is that just the top of the top? But when do you go back and look at real estate, because everyone's impacted by real estate, no matter if you're moving stuff or if you're looking to be an owner and control assets?
Mm.
Yeah, definitely the upper half of the industry there's no doubt are expanding into real estate, buying and leveraging real estate. Yeah, the ones our big boys that we deal with, they do so much more than moving. They do have property, they do have land. They are making those strategic purchases across the country and even internationally as well.
Yeah, and that goes back to
Yeah. But
investment
on the
piece.
beginning side, I was gonna say on the beginning side, if you're just getting in there and you're not looking to own, land because maybe you're not to that point, how hard is it to call, 30 real estate agents a day? Every sign you see, you call them and introduce yourself as, hey, I'm a mover. I'm still just always looking at that angle of somebody that's got their hand in something related to real estate. There's always an angle to get money from that deal at some point.
Mm. No, that makes a lot of sense. For those that's watching, definitely like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. But nevertheless, Ethan makes a great point, and being that he makes a great point, hearing from another real estate agent previously about how real estate agents are the most, I guess, and I guess I'll try to use this word right, abused people in the industry because of their connections, with all sorts of contractors that can relate to, helping a client of yours relocate or help a client ongoingly. So I think, even just calling them a real estate agent daily or, being overwhelmed by, oh, well, five moving companies see my sign and they're calling me, telling me they're a moving company. Like, what is a real estate agent to do with that information, being that they're just being overwhelmed with people just calling them, just trying to use them for you know, their upbringing.
Yeah,
Um,
good real estate agents always leverage service providers. You might have an open house and you get that mover to sponsor pizza or something like that in exchange for having their cars there. You might be doing a workshop. I used to always leverage the service providers, surveyors, appraisers, closing companies. All these folks. If you want access to the Rolodex of people I'm gonna be dealing with, especially during the summer months when the deal flow is crazy. But then again, you may not need them then. It's all about relationship building, and of course, you guys know that. But for somebody that's like saying, "How would I do that?" or "How do I differentiate?" You got to build the relationship. It can't just be that one call. I think it's a lot more than that. But as an agent, yeah, I used to always leverage, service providers to sponsor things, and that way you can really separate. You can, what they say, let the rubber hit the road, and really separate those who will from those who won't.
mhm.
Yeah, there's the ones that call and there's the ones that show up. I didn't call real estate agents. I wasn't sending the cold emails. I'd show up to their meetings,
Mhm.
show up to open houses, sponsor luncheons, create that relationship. I was not doing that shit over the phone at all.
Mhm.
They were going to see me in the flesh, and that was the difference, at least in my market. Everybody's market's different, but I wasn't the guy making those calls. I was the guy pulling up, making some noise.
Yeah. That's the best way to do business, man. Like let me like we say even in the hood, man. I'm gonna pull up on you. Let's find out
Yep,
then whenever I get. Let's see what happens.
that's it.
I
Stay
mean,
pulling
that's
up.
good for business too.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so I know we talked about it kind of last week where we talked about the direction of marketing for the industry or so like that. But one of the things that I think was big, even though I know Ryan stepped away, one of the things that was big was postcards and now direct mailers or so like that. Now, of course, a lot of people are targeting people that's selling homes because they're seeing that the bigger margins are there. But I feel like with the third party lead providers, the people that, were giving you leads from realtors.com or whatever site these people were going to looking for houses or homes or rentals or whatever the case was, I feel like those lead providers are getting way more expensive and not as good quality versus, the market of people selling houses and you're doing postcards and you're doing direct letters and stuff like that. I feel like that market is going to get oversaturated as well. The Google, what was it? Google, what was that thing that went viral in the beginning?
Ooh,
Google,
act.
the
Let
thing where people were popping up on top of Google, where if you paid a little extra, whatever the case is, it'll be like your
The
name.
guarantee,
Yes, Google Guarantee.
Google guarantee.
So that took off like widespread. And now I don't even know if it's still a thing, but I don't know how many movers are really taking advantage of that. I've heard the crazy part that, hey, a lead can cost you $120, per lead. Now obviously if it's a bad lead, Google will credit you back. But if it's a good lead, okay, hey, you just paid $120 and hope that that customer booked with you. If they didn't book with you and they went with somebody else on that Google guarantee list, what is your acquisition cost for a $120 lead? How how deep are you looking to go with that?
Not that deep.
Now, does the moving market have like content creators? Content creators are in every industry. Like I'm wondering if you got people that are movers and they're diving into the TikTok and stuff like that. What's the vibes and content creation for movers?
There is a ton of that, I would say. It's a mixed bundle, we'll say. But there's all sorts of wild and crazy content. There's some that's, really educational and brings a lot of awareness, and there's some that's just kind of just general content, movers in the wild doing their thing. But there's a decent amount. It's starting to ramp up more than ever. I got 15 years in the industry at this point. This is the most content, education, awareness I've ever seen in 15 years. I mean, every time I pull up Face Page or Insta Chat or whatever these things are freaking called, LinkedIn, like all I see is just, and again, it's because of probably the friends I have too, right? I mean, my whole Facebook, it used to be family and friends. Now it's all movers, for goodness sakes. And that's all I see. I scroll through my, what do you call it? Feed? I can't stand social media, but I
Ryan,
scroll through my
you
feed.
looking for a younger Gen X.
I just hit 40, man. I feel like
Yeah,
some days
Ryan's
I
You're
trying to show
older.
his age.
Yeah, I'm early 40s too, so we older millennials and that stuff. We grew up on Oregon Trail, Control Alt Delete.
Man, I grew up out playing baseball in a field, riding your bikes, get your ass home when the street lights come on because it's dinner time. I didn't have no Sega Genesis. My brother was the computer guy, the Sega Genesis, blowing into games to get him started. That was his thing. I was more, dude, I was out riding, ripping the streets up on my bike. When you saw a pile of bikes in the front yard, that's where you pulled up. That's who everybody was. There was no cell phones. I had a pager for like 2 months until my parents took that away from me. From direct page, it was $9.99 a month.
Mm.
And my dad
You ever
found out.
be
He
paging
said,
yourself to make sure it's working?
"No, my dad found out, and he was like, the day I gotta page my son to get home is the day I'm gonna whoop your ass." So he's like, "I'm not paying $10 a month to buzz you. You're gonna be here on time." So pager went away. It was blue too. I'll never forget that thing.
I always wanted a pager, but like I said, I was like a phone plan. Oh, I
Horrible.
can't afford it for the plan to have no pager. I
I
can't.
remember I remember vividly sitting at, and this is how we found out, sitting at the dinner table. My dad always sat at the one head, I sat at the other side, my mom, my brother sat here. I had the pager on my hip, and it was my buddy's at the time. So it was like right before I was getting mine. And somebody paged my buddy, and of course I had his pager. That thing vibrated, and I freaked out at the dinner. I was like, "What the shit?" And everyone's like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "Oh, the pager went off." And it was like a code on there, which meant something at the time. Because remember, I used to punch in the codes. Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I had the pager too, man. You was cool when you had the page. You would lift your shirt up so people could see you had the
Yeah,
pager.
hanging on
I
his.
was
Now people lift their shirts and there's Glocks in there. It's a
still
little
working.
different
Yeah,
story.
yeah, no, it's definitely a different world. And to your point, Ethan, yeah, the social media is crazy with content from movers, and they're trying to shake it up by doing different interesting content, not just advertising their trucks and saying, "Oh yeah, well, call us today for your free quote." So I feel like some of them are shifting from just that basic template quote to, actually producing some sort of level of content. Now, I don't know what the ROI is behind it because most people are not necessarily open about, oh, well, hey, TikTok brought me this much revenue this month, or this brought me this revenue. I think it's more about awareness and just putting yourself out there so that people can find you. Now, again, how many younger adults are paying for movers? I don't know the number to that because it's like most people are still in that level where they're like, oh, you know what, moving is too expensive. I'll move myself. So the older folks, where they could find you at, maybe on Facebook or pushing it with Instagram, but maybe Facebook. That's probably where they're gonna look to try to find you at. Ryan told me the other day he wasn't even on TikTok. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, everyone sends me these TikTok things, and it's like I want to see it, and I click on it. It's like you got to sign. I'm like, I ain't sign up for TikTok. I got
They gonna
Facebook
get
and LinkedIn.
they,
That's it. I do have an Insta chat or Instacart, whatever you want to call it. The gram. I don't log in though.
it ain't
Oh,
going down in the DM for Ryan, man. He ain't about that life, man. He just got
No,
get your money and keep it moving, huh?
no. I'm swiping. I'm swiping left on y'all. I'm done. I ain't got no Tinders, none of that shit. I just don't. I use socials to basically, and I don't want to use the word stalk. That sounds terrible, but just to, if I'm getting ready to meet with somebody or this or that or what have you, let's go take a peek at their Facebook and their LinkedIn. Let's see what they like. Where do they eat? What's their sports team? Do they have kids? What do they like? just so I, have those general conversations and strategically bring things up throughout the conversation that I know is going to pique their interest. That's how I leverage. I use Facebook as a tool rather than, to burn 4, 5, 6 hours a day scrolling up through the feed
Mhm.
there. But
No, and that makes a lot of sense. And it does become overwhelming. Like I'm on most of the social channels except for, well, even Twitter, but I don't go on Twitter. I have all these profiles, but it's just like it's so like, and they're somewhat common, but at the same token, they all have their ins and outs. They all have their algorithm. They all have these things that if you post something, well, hey, how many views would I get if I post this or whatever case is? Oh, do I have to post it at a certain time in the day to get the most views and impact? And that becomes overwhelming because it's just like, hey, we just want to post. We just want to share our thoughts. We don't want to think, about impressions and all this other different things. And are we making the most impact? No, hey, something came to our mind at this time, and hey, we shared it and hope that we get the volume of people looking at it. But these social channels don't operate like that because hey, we have too many connections. I probably have over close to 2,000 friends slash followers on Facebook. So
damn.
me seeing the one person that I really want to see, no, I physically have to go to their page because I may not even see their post when they post. And they're like, oh, damn, nobody checked on me when this happened. I'm sorry, because,
So I do
Algorithm. Um,
I do post strategically with the one business page that we do have. And you'll see almost just about every day between 10 and 10:15 a.m. there will be a post from the business because we're in a kind of a manufacturing area. And at 10 o'clock at all these manufacturing plants, what these guys get their 10 o'clock break, 10 to 10:15. Also, what happens around 10 to 10:30 going into 11 o'clock? People are starting to think about what? What am I going to order
right.
for lunch? What am I going to eat? So I try to time all my posts out with that 15-minute union break or whatever the hell they want to call it. Plus, that's when people typically start thinking about lunch. And there's no doubt. Now, I don't have a way to measure it, but I can absolutely see an increase in traffic at our one business due to those posts. At least my feeling is, I don't want to say my feeling, but um, those strategic posts, I think, now, moving wise, I don't know how you would do that, but I think in the restaurant game, super, super easy to tackle that one.
what are you gonna say, Ethan?
Do I about marketing just quickly here, and with social media, the algorithm, like you just mentioned, it's changed the whole game. But, if you were starting over today or somebody out there that's listening, they want to double down on what marketing looks like, as a moving company, what moves are you making? What do you do in this environment where the rules have completely been changed to reach your customer? What say thee for, digital marketing? How would you, start over to build a following or get money in your pocket if you know it depended on the people seeing you.
Phew. If I had to start over today, I think I would feel blind about it because like I said, I would only go into the marketing that I knew that worked in the past, which would be, hey, let me get in front of as many customers as possible with these third-party lead providers. Let me get in front of the people with like the U-Haul people that, hey, are getting U-Haul trucks or Penske trucks, whatever the case is. Those are the people that are moving. Let me get in front of them some way, shape, or form and go from there. As far as social media goes, social media again was just to bring awareness about your company, whether it brought local business or it brought, business in general. It was very rare with our business page. Obviously, we try to share it with our clients or whatever the case is, but customers will find you on Facebook, find your company on Facebook. They'll see your ads. I never really ran Facebook ads with my moving company. Um, but they will find your company. And we did run a lot of organic posts, like when we were associated with Move Up, and I'll use them as a great example. When we was associated with them, or we was associated with Rotate Digital, all of these guys kind of like put marketing posts, organic marketing posts on our Facebook business page, and I think that was extremely helpful from a marketing standpoint because I definitely didn't have time to sit here and create marketing posts throughout the day. So when these guys were like, "Oh, hey, we want to get your business exposed. Oh, well, hey, we're going to do recruiting posts on your Facebook or your social media." I was like, "Okay, hey, you know what? That's keeping our Facebook page alive. That's keeping it relevant because we have some sort of post going out." And then when I actually post very rarely, like, oh, hey, we had a really great client. They was extremely happy with our service. Contact us today. A customer that actually used our service was following our Facebook page and was like, hey, these guys were really great. I recommend them. And I was like, oh, snap. You don't even know who's following you necessarily. But I felt like the page was relevant because these other businesses that were kind of like indirectly associated with like marketing on Facebook that was helping with it was doing a great job. So I think I would start in the same areas. Start with my lead provider, start with postcards, start with direct mail, newsletter engagements, make sure we're getting reviews constantly and just kind of build up from there.
And
That's fair.
I'd be out in the community at every event if I could do it over. And again, I started this out of the 12 years I was in the moving and storage industry. I didn't start this until about year 7, and it was 7 years worth of a miss for me. If I was to go back and do it all over again, I'd be at every community event, function, feature. I would be everywhere in my local community, to the point where if we didn't show up to an event, you'd be like, "Oh shit, what happened?" We would
Mhm.
be everywhere to dominate the hometown piece. Once I got involved with our local community, that's when things really started switching gears for us. That was, a lot of people look down upon Chamber of Commerces and say, "Oh, well, what do they do for me? All I do is I spend three, four, five, $600 a year there. What do I get out of it besides my name in a directory?" Well, it's not what the chamber does for you. It's what you and your company does for the chamber. Are you volunteering at events? Are you helping stand up events? Are you sponsoring events? Are you doing the business after business shows that go on basically every week on Thursdays from 5 to 7, where it basically highlights and showcases other businesses? Are you getting up in front of the community and having speaking engagements? And that stuff, a lot of it's free. Like, you don't have to
Mhm.
spend thousands and thousands and thousands of freaking dollars. Like, yes, you'll make sure your marketing, your SEO is tight, makes your websites tight, your Google business, sure. But I'd be out there dominating the community. I'd be everywhere. Go sponsor for $150 a baseball team, a softball team, a soccer team. Minimum money. And to have a major, major impact and a ton of outreach. I just feel like the deeper you can get in your community, not even feel, I know. I mean, there's moving companies that do this right now. Look at Stephen Reed, for goodness sakes. I mean, you go to Memphis and ask for a mover, what name's pulling up? Everybody's talking about him and his organization. But again, the culture he's created, and it's not just him out in the public, in the community, it's his entire team. Those guys wear that uniform with pride. They
Mhm.
bleed big league red all day long. So I'd start off right in my own backyard. And until I dominated that, I wouldn't be looking any further.
Mm. Okay, okay. Now, Ethan out here interviewing us. So what should people be doing if they want to get into this whole investment stuff?
That's a great question. As Ryan was talking about spending a little bit to make a little bit, I was thinking, of course, it takes dough to make bread. So yeah, man, if you were interested to get into, investing, I think leverage is your best friend, OPM, other people's money. You don't need to be able to pay cash. Somebody can pay cash, but if you can go in and build your business credit, you got a little money, you build a good reputation. These days, money, I think money's flowing pretty freely right now, especially if your paperwork is right. So if I were wanting to potentially leverage and get into investing, I'd make sure my paperwork's right. For starters, you're registered properly, got all the licensing you need, money's flowing through. What I used to tell first-time home buyers, a lot of people that had, maybe I call non-traditional jobs, they weren't creating a paper trail to show how much money they're actually making. And when it comes time to use leverage, nobody's gonna take your word for it. You got to show that actually over the past 6 to 9 months, 3 months, whatever it is, Bank of America, Chase, whomever, they've seen this much money come into my account, even if you take it right out. So for that those are just some of the basic nuances. Get your paperwork right. Get with somebody potentially like myself that can help you strategically plan. It takes planning. I like to say, if you, what is it? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Some of
Mhm.
those things, man, it's really ABC. You don't have to always be trying to follow the rules. Like you said, the guy in school is trying to follow the rules. Meanwhile, the hustler's out making the money because he don't know the rules. He just know he got to get it. So I think those are just some of the nuanced approaches that I would talk about. And anybody that's listening, I'd be happy to visit with you one-on-one, schedule an appointment, strategically kind of lay out what your path might look like. And you can find me on all socials at Ethan Brisby. My company is called Shift Enterprise Academy. We do a lot of startup consulting now in East Africa. But I'm from Texas. I'm an Aggie, went to Texas A&M, went to Morehouse in Atlanta. So, but I just have kind of looked at this part of my life and seeing some stuff here in East Africa, even noticing the need for logistics. I'll stop here and let you guys jump in there. But like in Uganda, where I'm at, 80% of the country are farmers. But people are growing tomatoes, but nobody's making ketchup. People growing potatoes, but nobody's making French fries. And a lot of it's just because you're not able to move it from the farm to the factory to add value. So little bitty nuanced opportunities like that, even in emerging markets, exist. And so I'm happy to dive deeper into those opportunities as well.
I
Okay.
feel like I just heard the other day, Ethan, that East Africa is like experiencing some like tremendous economic growth. Is that what you're
Bro.
saying? I'm talking about like infrastructure development, manufacturing sectors. Like, are you seeing that same thing?
Yeah, man, the fundamentals here are out the roof. I sold my home in Houston in 22 and just went all in. Like, okay, I don't know exactly how it's gonna work, but I'm here. But yeah, it's a less developed nation. So what has to happen? Development, right? And so every single sector is growing. Whether it's Kenya, Kenya has a lot more easy, free flowing cash that comes through because it's a lot more developed. Nairobi's almost like New York, to be honest with you. And then Mombasa out on the coast is, that's where the port is. So great opportunities there. Uganda, where I'm at, is a lot less developed, but there's so many opportunities and so much money flowing. And so you just have to find your place in the supply chain and just mine it deeply, like you said earlier.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
again, and he's speaking from across the world, y'all. So, if it could be done, it could be done. You just have to put your mindset to the game plan, write the game plan down so that obviously your mind isn't all over the place on how to get to the end result and just go after it. So we are at the top of the hour. Again, y'all like, comment, subscribe. Ethan, thank you for joining us. We'll probably definitely have you on another show because we got to have our anniversary episode soon where we got to bring back all of our guests, Ryan, should be a blast. Um,
Get it?
so I got to make sure we plan this around Ryan and his non-traveling day because he missed the last one.
You better get it done real quick because I'm gonna hit the road
You
here
have to
soon,
pay
about middle of June.
him so you can get to him quicker. You got to page him.
Yeah.
So, definitely, like I said, guys, focus on your schedules, focus on your time management. This is busy season, this is chaos season, but if you manage your time properly, it don't have to be that chaos. Just plan it, schedule your life around it, because at the end of the day, you still got to enjoy your home life. Obviously moving is great, but if your home life is suffering, your work life will suffer. But Ryan, you want to take it away?
No, man, I think let Ethan take it away all the way from East Africa, my man. Take
Oh
this bad
yeah,
boy home. Drive it home.
Thank you guys for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And for the guy, the girl that's out there and you're looking for your next level again, I think Dwyght said it best. Man, let's hang our hat on the idea of writing the vision and making it plain. And whatever those walls, those blockages are, it's like a thermostat. If you set the thermostat to 75 in your house, whenever it gets there, it's gonna stop. And so if your goals or your money making opportunities are set at a certain level, once you get there, you're gonna relax. So maybe you need to turn the heat up or turn it down on your life and on your business to see what's next. So that's all I got, man. It's always fun to chat, especially with my millennial brothers and just kind of shoot the breeze and maybe somebody was helped. So I definitely don't mind coming back. And Dwyght, thanks for reaching out.
definitely, definitely. All right, y'all. Yeah, keep crushing it out there. We'll see y'all next Thursday. All right, take care.